Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another session of digital signal processing algorithms and architecture session. So, in previous session, we discussed regarding FIR filter. So now, how FIR filter coefficients can be identified from the frequency response. That is, we had seen in previous this thing that we had solved this equation, that is the problem we had solved, and in this we obtained the phase and magnitude response, that is the phase response, the magnitude response, and the phase response. Now this is the frequency response of the filter what we are intended to design. So this is the frequency response which we had obtained, and its equivalent representation in Z transform, in Z domain. So this we had observed in previous session. So continuing with the previous this thing. So if I want to identify the coefficients, we can make use of this equation for the FIR filter. That is, if I have to identify the coefficients Bk of the filter, I can make use of the frequency response. I can make use of the frequency response in order to obtain the different coefficients. Now, what is the problem with identifying the coefficients with respect to FIR filters? Now, what happens here is we come across something called as Gibbs phenomenon, which is basically giving rise to ripples which are present in the passband. Now, why those ripples happen to be present? For example, if this is a low pass filter, I am intended to have some response of this kind. Say this is h of e raised to j theta, and this is the frequency domain. So we have something in this form. Say for in simplicity, it is h of f, and this is f. So this is a frequency response of the filter what you have designed. Now, when we are designing FIR filter, what happens is the number of coefficients which are required to represent the filter can be very high, or FIR filter can be very high. Now, what happens is in order to avoid such kind of conditions, in order to avoid having too many coefficients, what we do is we make use of something called as truncation. That is, we truncate few of the values. So when we truncate, what happens? That is, truncation is we try to stop it at certain point. Will not accept the remaining. So something in that form. We try to truncate based on some criteria. We do this. So that is what we try to establish. Now, but when we are doing this, what happens is we'll observe. So this is the pass band. This is the pass band, and this is a stop band. When we truncate it, what happens is we might see some ripple effect over here. I think when you are dealing with Chebyshev filter, Butterworth filter, Chebyshev 1, 2, then elliptic filter. So there you might have observed such kind of equations, such kind of representations. And in order to identify what is the ripple factor present here, you made use of some parameters in order to establish what is the amount of ripple present and how can I reduce it. So if you remember, so you might be observing that there will be some rippling effect happening, and then there will be a transition that is at the stop band. So what happens is when the coefficients I try to truncate, it gives rise to what is called as a rippling effect in the, it gives rise to the ripples in the pass band. So this ripples which are present in the pass band give rise to the term what is called as Gibbs phenomenon. Now, in order to control this Gibbs phenomenon, what we do is we can make use of the windowing technique. I think you might have gone through a few of the windows what you had dealt with. Windows which are used for designing the filters in FIR and IR filters related to digital signal processing subject. So you make use of windows. So windows are basically used for controlling or overcoming the problem of Gibbs phenomenon. So windows are used for that purpose. So that is what is happening here. So it all starts from the filter coefficients. When we want to establish a filter, the coefficients bk can be extremely long. That is, there can be very high number of coefficients present in this. So if that is the case, we try to avoid this extremely long sequence of bk by truncation. But when we do this, gives rise to ripples in the passband, and which is termed as Gibbs phenomenon. In order to overcome this, we make use of what is called as windowing technique. If you have studied Barrett window or some other windows also, you might have heard about. So these are the windows what we use in order to overcome the Gibbs phenomenon. So this is basically to avoid the ripples or minimize the effect of the ripples in the passband. So next we have, so this is all related to the filter design. So this is one method, that is windowing technique, which is used in FIR filter. So next we have another this thing wherein we specify Park McLennan FIR filter design. So in this case, it is entirely computer-based filter design for the FIR filters. It makes use of some of the algorithms such as the Remez exchange algorithm and Chebyshev approximation theory. So these all concepts again come from your DSP subject. So it is a replica of those things, Remez exchange algorithm and Chebyshev approximation theory. So these basically try to do what? They try to minimize the maximum error. They try to minimize the maximum error between the actual and the desired frequency response. So they try to fill up the gap and try to reduce that gap. So that is what they try to do using the Parks McLennan FIR filter design. So next, let us go ahead. Next comes the IIR, that is infinite impulse response filter. So they basically have infinite impulse response samples. Then, since there are infinite impulse response samples present in this filters turn out to be recursive. Now, why recursive? Another factor is the output basically depends on one more factor, which is not seen in FIR filters. In FIR filters, what was the case? In FIR filters, we saw that output is dependent on present input and the past input values. Whereas in IIR, what happens? The output is dependent on the present input, past input sequences, and it also depends on the previous output. It depends on the previous output. Hence, these kind of filters will be coming under recursive filters. So recursive filters, they basically depend on present inputs, past inputs, and the past outputs. So this was not there previously. So if it is dependent on only this, it turns out to be FIR filter. If all three come together, then it will be IIR filter. So this is with respect to the IIR filter. Now we had seen that in FIR filter we had linear phase response, but IR filters do not have linear phase response. So that when we just see the equation, we can just make it out. So if I just go back here, so you can see that the phase response is a straight line over here. It's a straight line, which is linear in nature. So depending on the design, how it goes ahead, it will be changed. So the transfer function of FIR filter is given by this equation, wherein again we can identify zeros from here and poles from the denominator, equating the numerator to 0 and identifying all the z values, identifying all the z values. So for which this equation is satisfied. Those give me the regions of zeros, and in denominator, when I equate this equation to 0 and try to see what are the possible values of z, those values give me the poles. So using this, I'll be able to I'll be able to identify how the system is performing or what will be the overall response. So IR filter basically depends on the stability, basically depends on the number of coefficients which are present, then values of the coefficients. So these are the two major things which basically decide how stable the IR filter will be. Now another thing to identify is IR filter does not provide a constant group delay, whereas in FIR filters they provide a constant group delay. We saw that the group delay was half in the previous example what we had seen. So since there is no constant group delay, what happens is I cannot use IR filter in applications which are very very intolerant to the phase distortions. They're not tolerant to any minor phase distortion. So in such cases, I don't go for IR filters. I would prefer for FIR filter. Now, what is the advantage of such kind of a filter? Now, what happens is in previous slide, we just observed that for FIR filter, the coefficients BK can be very lengthy, and it might require large number of coefficients. But when we go for IR filter, it requires basically lesser number of coefficients in order to realize the frequency response what we want. So in comparison to FIR filter, it requires very less number of coefficients. When less number of coefficients come into play, what happens is less computation time is also required. Whereas in FIR filter, more computation time would be required. Then in apart from this, since you are computing, say if you're using the hardware over there and you're computing the coefficients, less power consumption will be present because less number of coefficients you have to estimate. But what happens in FIR? FIR, the power consumption can go higher as compared to the IR filter. So hence shorter computation time is required, and since shorter computation time, say power consumption also will be less as compared to the FIR filter. So apart from this, what happens is we'll be able to handle larger bandwidth of the signals. Whereas in IR filter, this becomes a problem because if the coefficient, this thing is very lengthy, then it will pose problems on handling signals which make use of larger bandwidth. So I cannot go for such kind of signals wherein I can use the FIR filter. So instead of that, we have to go for IR filter, which supports the larger bandwidth. So these are just few comparisons related to say IR and FIR filters. So here you can observe there is a difference equation. First, I should try to estimate whether it is a IR or FIR related equation. So if I just observe here, present output Y of n is dependent on present input, and apart from that it is dependent on one of the past values of the output. Now since it is dependent on the past values and the present input, we can specify that this I can go ahead with the IR filter implication. So this basically defines the IR filter output, in which say he has given 90% from the previous and 10% from the present input. That is what he specifies in theoretical notation. So when I try to identify the transfer function of this, take Z transform of this equation. So when you take Z transform, you'll be having Y of Z equal to some parameter with X of Z, and you represent it with Y of Z divided by X of Z, which will give you the frequency response, that is in terms of Z this thing. So once you get Z right, in terms of Z this thing, what you do is you represent Z is equal to E raised to J theta, and you will be getting the overall equation. So that is what you can check out. So if I just take the Z transform of this is Y of Z If I take Z transform of this, it is 0.9 times y of Z into Z raised to minus 1. And when I take Z transform of this, it will be 0.1 times x of Z. So when I solve this equation, what happens? I take minus zero point 0.9 this side, zero point 0.9 y of z into z raised to minus 1. So it will be y of z into 1 minus point 0.9 into z inverse, and at the other end I am having 0.1 into sorry 0.1 into x of z. Now take this x of z below this, and I'll be having it as pi of z divided by x of z, which is equal to h of z. And this term I'll be taking at the other end, and this side I'm having 0.1, so it will be 0.1 divided by 1 minus zero point 0.9 z inverse. So this is h of z. From this I can get this equation. Just substitute z is equal to e raised to j theta. I'll be getting the overall equation. So here he has represented, he has taken z inverse common. So when you take z inverse common, what would happen is it would turn out to be z minus zero point 0.9 into z inverse, and it goes on top, it becomes z. So this is how it is represented. So this is the frequency response of the difference equation what is given here. So this is the frequency response. Now if I want the magnitude, you can take the magnitude of the overall equation and try to see what it results in. And if you want to check the phase of this, and you try to establish what overall result is. As I had specified, if you want to identify the say using without using the calculator, if you want to identify what is the phase response, since here I don't have specific values, right? So you can you can directly represent this in terms of try to represent this in terms of A plus JB form. You try to represent it in this form. Try to resolve this equation. And if you want to identify the magnitude of this, magnitude will be A square plus B square. And if you want to try to identify the phase of this one, it will be tan inverse of B by A. So first try to represent this equation in this form. Then you can take square root of A square plus B square and tan inverse of B by A. So in order to identify the phase and magnitude and phase response respectively. So this is how it appears. So when I plot, when I get the equation right, when I get the equation of the magnitude and the angle of h of e raised to j theta, then I'll be able to represent by substituting different values of theta over here. I'll be getting the magnitude response, which is in this form. Now, one important thing to identify is if you just observe this graph, it is not as same as you had seen previously. For FIR filter, you saw that it was a straight line, but for this case, it is not a straight line. It is curved over here. So what is this implying? It is implying that the phase response is non-linear. Phase response is non-linear. Now, apart from this, if you just observe here, based on the previous equation, if you just come to the equation, it is 0.1 times xn plus zero point 0.9 times yn minus 1. So there should be one delay unit. There should be one delay unit, one adder, and zero point 0.9 and zero point 0.1 are the multiplication factors. So in order to implement the entire difference equation. So you have x of n. X of n has to be first multiplied with the 0.1. So it is point here I'll be getting 0.1 times x of n. This has to be added to the delayed version of y of n. So here when I pass it through unit delay, I'll be getting y of n minus 1. Y of n minus 1 has to be multiplied with a factor of 0.9 and then added. So when I add it, I'll be getting the overall response of the IR filter. So this is with respect to the IR filter, its magnitude and the phase response. Now, how do I design these filters? IR filter design, and I have another one that is FIR filter design I have discussed in the previous. So FIR filter design, we saw windowing and Parks and McLagan FIR filter design. So in IR filter also we have two different kinds of approaches. One is one is termed as analog filter design technique. So in this one, basically what we try to do is we design a filter as we design it for the analog filter and then convert those into its equivalent digital representation with the help of transformations. So you might have, if you remember, you had seen some of the transformations. That is, if you have a Laplace transform which is represented in S, so this is analog representation. This S domain representation to Z domain representation. Z is related to digital. This is related to analog. This is related to digital. This you might have gone through in DSP. So S to Z domain you might have done. So first you design the filter in the S domain and then you transform it to the Z domain. So that will give you the digital equivalent filter. That is analog filter design. So in this one, what you're doing is you're using the techniques that will be used to build the analog filter design, and then you try to implement the transformation. Some of the examples which are given is Butterworth filter design, Chebyshev 1 and 2 filter design, elliptic filter design. Now, what are the steps involved in this case when I am using say analog filter design technique? So first step is to design a filter with the required specification, but you are designing the filter in analog terms. So what are the specifications which are required? You have to identify what is the passband ripple, what should be the attenuation in the stop band, what should be the transition width. So when you have a filter, right? Say for example, I am just taking a simple case. What is the ripple that is present or that should be allowed in the passband? So this is the ripple region which will be present. And what is the transition? So this transition, when it is happening, what is the transition width? And what is the attenuation that will be introducing? Whether it should be, say, by a decade or how much this thing. So what should be the slope? Also, you decide how fast the transition should happen, whether it should be slow or whether it should be fast. So those all things are the specifications what you look out for. So step is first design the analog filter equivalent with the required specifications such as passband ripple, stop band attenuation, and transition bandwidth. Next, convert this filter what you have obtained, that is the analog filter what you have designed, into its digital equivalent, using some transformations. So one I gave. So here when you design, the filter will be represented with yes. It will be in the yes domain. It will be in the yes domain. Now this domain, when you convert it into the Z domain, I'll be getting the equivalent digital filter. So this is one transformation. So BLT and other stuffs are there, right? So those all things we can use in order to design the IR filters. So this is one technique. Now another technique is direct design. So here we try to make use of least square fit to obtain the desired frequency response. One example for this one is Yole-Walk design approach. So these are the filters what we can look out for.